welcome to Gene Keys with Monifa. This is our transit reading. So if you want the full key, just go over to the other of Gene Keys with Monifa. And this one talk about what's going on in the transit and how it applies to our businesses and how we're showing up for the work we are here to do in the world. So we're talking about Gene Key 59, which is the gift of intimacy. It's also gate 59 in quantum human design, that is sustainability. So it is really this conversation about what allows us to continually create is how I'm going to kind of reduce a lot of this stuff. Even in the key that I do, the full reading that I do, which is my Gene Keys with Monifa series, that one is also going to have a little bit more of my input on how I understand the energy, just because I felt it was necessary. So here we are with the shadow of dishonesty, the gift of intimacy, and the city of transparency. And so this one is going from our sacral to our will center in the human design chart. And it's really about having the power to complete and sustain, right? And so that ability to continue to complete is part of it, in my opinion, of completion of what you're creating. That is what kind of drives the tension here in the shadow of dishonesty. Okay, so we're going to actually start out on the quantum human design side this time because we're going to talk a little bit about Karen Craze Parker's explanations for the transit, because I feel like they refine the energy a lot of times to what's like applicable for our working environments. Gene Keys is vast in its reference from everywhere from health to evolution to our energy bodies and how they are participating in our experience, or how we are perceiving our experience of our energy bodies. So it can get deep real quick. And Karen kind of keeps us honest by talking about real representations so that we are doing the real work. So we'll start there. And she talks about evaluating our connections this full moon. So in the full moon, we're usually letting go, and we'll have a few of those takeaways a little bit later. But we're just going to talk about the overall energy for now. And in evaluating our connections and commitments, we have to decide what we are going to let go of, all the old patterns that are not serving us anymore, the relationships that are no longer sustainable or aren't feeling like we can keep them up, like we can keep coming back to in the same way, right? So the same patterns as before. And what would it take, or what do we need to create sustainable patterns? Do we have to end the relationship, or does it mean redefining how we are interacting, right? So that's a lot about what's going on here. I love the way that she focuses here on our creative brain as far as what are we here to create. And she talks about how it's faith and imagination that will allow us to build what we want. So I think of that as how we trust that we can build what we want, so that we are creating something that is actually reflective of what was within us to do, with what is going to be viable and sustainable and equitable and profitable, all those wonderful prosperous ideas at the same time. Okay. And so in this evaluation, it may be a little tough this time around. She talks about watching out for depletion and exhaustion. And immediately when I read that, I was just like, oh, that's what's going on. I tend to feel transit energy very, very deeply. And my body isn't very, what do you call it? It's not tired, but just kind of this heaviness, right? This kind of heaviness feeling is what I'm feeling. So let me know in the comments if you've been feeling a little heavy in this last couple days, and a couple days before, a couple days after, you might still be feeling the effects, or feeling them come in, or feeling them leave, right? How are you feeling? Are you having energy? Or are you feeling a little low energy? But what she says to look out for here is just that because we're low energy, that we're projecting so that we can deflect things that we don't feel like we have the energy to deal with. And then fighting. So fighting happens when we feel like we are not resourced. So we fight for resources. So we argue to make sure that we have what we need, right? So that goes back to the sustainability idea. So what do we do about it? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first. Putting on that oxygen mask before you try to just breathe or even resuscitate. So that same word is coming up, huh? Resuscitate others, right? You can't resuscitate others if you don't have any oxygen. So also in our when we're dealing with people that we have decided to be in partnership with, or we are deciding to kind of absent the relationship, that we are still speaking clearly about what it means to us, what we want in the situation. So either way, if you're staying, like be clear about what parameters you're staying under. If you're leaving, being clear about what it means to leave and what does it look like from now on, right? So another thing to watch out for is that everyone is needy. So that is a direct quote from Karen Curry Parker, but it's really, again, this kind of sense of feeling of tiredness. So everybody feels like they don't have much more to give, right? So it creates this feeling of I need more than you need because I'm tired, right? So it gets this needy, dragging feeling. And then sharing. So what does it look like about sharing our energy? How can we be uh, self-sustaining and still share our energy? Right. So how do I show up when I am feeling a little tired and I am all that? Well, I took a lot of time for myself so that I could be here now. Right. So what does that look like for you? Right. And then so some of the things that she brings up are challenges. So one of the ones I think is really important to talk about is um, what is what are you learning about making choices that sustain you and others? How are you learning to initiate from a sense of having enough? So she uses the word sufficiency. So when we feel that we have enough energy, we are sufficiently sustained, then we are more likely to share, right? And we are more likely to share from an abundant, prosperous place. The unbalanced expression here is to that we're struggling to survive. So that feeling that we're struggling, that there's lack, and that you're creating a partnership out of a sense of lack, of needing something more, that you can't do it by yourself. So you need other people, right? So this is like the real, what do I call it? That balance game between what is balanced, relationship and what is codependent. What is and balanced relationship I think of more as interdependent. So yes, you lean on each other every now and again, but if it's dominantly one side, then somebody is not getting breathe fed or having the ability to sustain their life, right? And their creative capacity. So that happens a lot in relationships. And we just got to be able to check in and see where we are so that we can clearly communicate how we're moving forward from here. And what are we letting go of? What are we changing about the old stuff? So we said that right. So in contemplation, she has a couple great questions here. Are you creating relationship and partnership agreements that honor your work? I feel like this is an important one for our businesses out here. So um, check them contracts, check your pricing, check how you agree to show up. You may be out of alignment. So if you are, just find a way to communicate what sustainable alignment looks like for you in that area. So if you can only meet during the week and you're not taking messages, questions on the weekend, then make that part of what you're communicating, maybe in your contracts and agreements, or being clear. This is what that's about. Okay. How do you feel about being right? This is important for just self contemplation, right? This is about you understanding when you feel like you can no longer sustain who you are and be authentic when somebody is questioning your rightness, right? And the second question is kind of a follow up to that. How do you feel about creating agreements with people who have different perspectives, who have another version of right? So if you know that you are dealing with people that have completely different frameworks, we have to be even more clear about what our framework is when we're working together in cooperation in partnership. So that doesn't mean that it can't happen. And actually, our most powerful relationships are between people with huge differences. You can see this in a lot of businesses. Some of the best businesses and companies that there are came from very different identities that had to work together, which created amazing creative capacity that served tons of people. And that's the power of this key, is that it has so much just raw creative power. That's talked about more in the gene key, uh, the full gene key. So it can be a little dangerous because like big power can be highly creative or highly destructive. So we can see this modeling in war and that kind of thing. And so we might have information about that showing up in this proximity, right? So it's part of one of the main energies for the year. So remember, there's like 64 keys, there's 64 gates in the same reflection, and there's only what 12, 13 moons for the year. I should know that. Um, and and so obviously not all the gates or gene keys are being covered. So when we're talking about the gates that are highlighted for the year in these energies, it's really the driving, the passions, the emotions, the how we are using our emotional perspective to do the work. That's what the moons are. That's why they are so reflective of how we are going as humanity. Um, so, an affirmation, a takeaway from Karen is I have more than enough power to sustain myself and others. And I love that affirmation. So, again, if any affirmation, if you would decide to do these, just remember our voices are first for us. If you find any conflict with the affirmation, I want you to change it to something that is fully true for you, or do the OMance method, which there are videos within my channel about the OMance method, which is going to help you clear any energy that is not in alignment with an affirmation, and so that it can be fully activating for you and not work kind of against you and your current beliefs in your current body. Okay, so just an aside. There's more on that. I have a whole video on my perception of affirmations. So if you want to check that out. And then what we want to take away. So I'm going to give you 3 takeaways of what to let go of in this Gene Key 59 transit full moon. First, we're letting go of beliefs that can keep us from being clearly, brutally, transparently ourselves. Okay. The hardest part about this is that it does take a level of intimacy. That's the gift, right? What is intimate is the ability to be in clear communication, not hiding anything. That's the dishonesty part of the gift. So that shadow and our fear of not being included in we are projecting, pushing an idea of what we think would be included. So basically, that's dishonest. So it's that idea of not being authentic, actually, which there's an authenticity project video coming up real soon that talks just about this. We're going to delve into the ego. We're going to talk about like what those things are missing, right? So Jen Yang is going to join me for that conversation in our series, the Authenticity Project. The second thing to let go of is the unsustainable ideas of partnership. So, you know, this full moon, Mars and Venus are in Aquarius, just knocking boots, like they're right next to each other. They're getting it on, but in a whole new way, right? In that Aquarius energy is what is new, what is for the community, what is going to be the new way of being sustainable is kind of what the whole chart is trying to show us. There's a new way to do it. So what's yours, right? And what do you need to let go of to be able to implement that new way of being together in community, in partnership, in the collective? So letting go, number three, of false intimacy for appearance. Ew. Oh, Monifa, why did you go there? I mean, it's so prevalent, especially amongst social media, right? So we often are trying to create the sense that of community without getting a lot of feedback because we are like talking heads over here, right? And so sometimes it can start being fake. It can just start feeling fake. It can feel like you're not really connecting because that person isn't right in front of you. And there's a really good kind of solution for that. I've heard a lot of people say this. So if you've ever done like a go live challenge, I'm sure you've heard this one. But for those who haven't, you can put a picture of maybe one of your clients or maybe somebody in your community or your family or your best friend who knows that you're gonna succeed in your vision and business, and put that right next to your camera and look at them and talk to them, talk to your ideal audience. And so often, and for us to really feel the emotional connection, we have to be thinking of an actual person, right? And so you don't have to fake it, guys. I know you care about somebody. So just think about the persons you care about. Think about the clients, your favorite, you know, your favorite clients. Yeah, think about your favorite clients and why and what do you enjoy about being on the journey with them. Like just, you know, bring it a little bit closer. Sometimes we allow the the separation of the onlineness to be the excuse not to be genuinely heartfelt, right? So that's a little trick for you guys. If you feel like you want to work on that area of letting go of the appearance of a community and jumping right into what it really means to be loved by you. Three content ideas for this full moon in Virgo to get your business going, right? So, what is a content idea around what defines intimacy amongst your collective? So, the people that you bring together in your community, what do y'all think intimacy is? So, in my group over here at Impact, we are talking about pain of imperfection. We always like to be perfect over here. It's one of our creative, wonderful things. We like to seek ideals and we love to be in creation around what can be wholly beautiful. And so that looks sometimes like wanting to be perfect. So we often have to re-examine ourselves, just check ourselves a little bit to make sure we're not letting perfection getting in the way of creation, and that we're not allowing that coming short of perfection to keep us in a state of failure. So if we're feeling like we are failures because we haven't achieved perfection, because there in actuality is no such thing as perfection. So if it's holding us back, you got to pay extra attention over here. Okay. So what another one is what defines freedom. So what defines freedom in your collective, in your community? For my people, but my community loves that freedom so that they can be creative without agenda. So a lot of times, even in their business, they're looking to have businesses that, yes, are profitable, but that is not the driving force of their creative inspiration, right? They are actually the driving force is the change, is the transformation, is creating the newness that is available in the world that we can all be served by. And so that means a lot of times that we have to redefine what that is, because historically, by society's objectives, especially in the US, it's about money. It's about what you can prove. It's about what you can put on a shelf, right? Invite your collective to a conversation that meets their needs for security and freedom, which is another way of saying this kind of yin. You have the clarification, the wording that says what meets the current need, right? Well, perceived need, perceived need, but it's also exactly how we can serve more people, because for those who have not yet experienced their freedom, then we get to be the energy, the bridge, the service that allows them to have that experience. So more people get to have that experience because we have the energy to do so. This is why sustainability is still the core concept of what's going on here. And for you guys, what I have done is built the podcast Verve and Vision with my lovely friend Susie Vine, and we talk about the news of the collective. What is going on? What is information that actually serves those who are in visionary leadership around the Aquarian age community, right? So we are special birds out here, and so we need special versions of what it looks like for us to show up each month. And so on next Thursday, we are going to be doing our show live on YouTube, Verve and Vision, and it's going to be on is authentic to you. The freedom to be authentic is being able to recognize your own freedom, right? To be who you are. And that's kind of the work of the new Aquarian age entrepreneur and marketer, is a way to speak to the needs that are created by problems that have yet to be resolved in a way that invites peace instead of creates more disharmony or conflict. And so I invite you to that challenge. The more that we take that on, the more that the world moves into this transcended space where we're above our differences and we're actually feeling the co-creative oneness and the possibilities for all. So I will see you there, and I will see you on the next Gene Keys transit. Thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate you being here. And if I don't see you in chat on YouTube, then I'd love to see you at one of my events. Check my links in the comments.